Chris Allingham with the Virtual Weber Bullet. Today I want to tell you about how I recently made beef tallow from some brisket scraps. In my next video I'll be telling you about how I use the beef tallow when making a brisket in my Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker, but that's going to be for another day very soon, so stay tuned for that video. If you've been paying attention to the barbecue scene over the last year, you know the beef tallow has gotten very popular in the barbecue area, but it's something you can use in lots of different ways in cooking. You can use it as a substitute for any kind of oil when sauteing vegetables. A lot of people use it for making tortillas, flour tortillas, as the fat ingredient in that. Lots of different ways you can use beef tallow. It's very popular. You can even find it in the grocery store these days. So if you're making a brisket anytime soon, you can save those beef scraps and you can use it to make your own tallow. It's very quick and very easy, relatively quick, but very easy. Let me show you how I did it. Now I had about a 14.5 pound USDA Prime brisket that I got at Costco. And here's a photo that shows the beef and fat scraps that I removed from that brisket. They weighed 3 pounds and almost 12 ounces. And in this photo, it's a little bit blurry, I apologize, but here I have 2 pounds of just the fat portion that's left over. I've separated out the meat from the fat. So if we go back to the previous picture, you'll see that there are some meat scraps in there attached to the fat. And in this picture, I have removed all the meat, so I have just fat that I'm going to be rendering for beef tallow. Now I had some quite large pieces of fat, so I cut them all down into strips that were no more than about 1 inch wide. And here you can see those pieces in the bottom of a Dutch oven. Now sometimes people will grind up their tallow using a meat grinder. I don't have a meat grinder, so I don't bother to do that. I don't really know that it's necessary, and it seemed like it worked okay for me without grinding up the meat. So this is how I did it. I placed the Dutch oven into a 250-degree oven in my kitchen, and this is how the fat looked after about 4.5 hours of rendering in the oven. You can see that I have kind of a golden liquid in the bottom. That's what I'm after. And what's left over are kind of crispy bits from the fat. Now, a lot of people who have larger barbecues, they'll do this process in the pit while smoking a brisket. They'll put this in a foil pan. They'll put this to the side or on a lower grate, and they'll let this render while the brisket's cooking. I didn't have that luxury the day that I did this. In fact, I did this the day before I cooked my brisket, so I did it in the oven. I didn't get any smoky flavor on the tallow, but you would get a little smoky flavor if you did this in your smoker. I started checking this at around the 3.5 hour mark. It seemed like between 3.5 and 4.5 hours, I wasn't really seeing much of a change in the bits that were in the pan, so I figured I was about done. And just to be safe, I did let it go to 4.5 hours. Your time may vary, and I think if you do this more and more, you'll get a better sense of how long you really need to go in order to render all of the tallow from these bits of fat. And here's the result, this beautiful golden tallow. I ran it through the fine sieve that you see in the background, which took out all the large bits and pieces. Some people would run this through some cheesecloth if they want to get just the finest little residual out of the liquid. That might be good depending upon, your purpose for this tallow. If you were making soap, for example, you'd want to get out everything and have a perfectly clear liquid, but for a cooking application, you don't really care. So the sieve was good enough. I let this sit on the kitchen counter for a while to cool off, and then eventually I put a piece of plastic wrap over it and I put it in the refrigerator. And it solidified, but it didn't turn rock solid. It turned into a soft, spoonable fat that I could then use for my brisket the next day. That will be coming in a separate video. Stay tuned for that. Well, that's it for now. I want to thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you very much. If you would please like this video and subscribe to my channel, I'd also really appreciate that. It just helps with the YouTube algorithm. They have some magic that they use to figure out which channels are good and which channels are bad and which channels they're going to recommend to people. So if you'll like this video and subscribe to my channel, it'll go a long way toward helping other people find my content. And until next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.